Hi, I am telling you today all about how I do my phone screening. This is my Section 8 Secrets Revealed playlist, so I am definitely going to go into how I phone screen people that have Section 8 in particular, but I'm also going to talk about any tenant at all that calls, how I am sure to protect my investment the most, beginning with that very first phone call. So let's get started. I am Monique Burns. I have my own investment properties in Detroit. My very first tenant has Section 8. She's still there, and I'm filming this in 2020. She has been there since the very beginning of 2008, and we get a full month's rent every month. And from there, my husband and I got a lot of requests from people that saw that it was going well for us. Can you do the same thing for us? We eventually started our own property management company in 2015. And now what we do is we buy houses ourselves in Detroit, we renovate them, we get them all ready to pass a Section 8 inspection or a city code, and then I place a tenant in the house, and then we sell the houses to investors all over the country and all over the world who in our last 5 years that we've tracked it from purchase till through the property management have made between 9 to 15% return on investment. And a lot of this starts with the phone screening. If you know what you're doing, this can be very successful and a great investment. So let's get to it, how I do the phone screening. There's a couple things that I think about when I am doing a phone screen. One is I am preventing an upfront eviction right here between this and doing my background check. Now, if you want my whole list of questions that I ask, it's free. Go down into the comments below. There's a link there. I'll send you this list so you don't have to write everything down and type it up yourself. But I'm also going to make a program on how I screen people, and it's quite extensive. I'm part of my local REIA group, Real Estate Investors Association of Oakland, as in Oakland County, Michigan, and it's something that I teach, and it's a pretty popular class. You'll get a lot of value once I have that ready for you, so I will let you know. If you click that link below, you'll be on my list so I can let you know when that comes out. And for sure, subscribe so you can keep in touch when I get all these other training videos. I have a whole bunch of them on Section 8. If you're kind of confused what even is Section 8, I'm not calling you a dummy, but start with my Section 8 for Dummies video here and then go to what is Section 8 really. That'll give you a good head start if you're not that familiar yet with Section 8. Another thing that I'm thinking about when I am using this list is the fair housing laws. I am making a video about fair housing. I haven't made that one yet, but check to see for whenever you're watching this. If it's up there, I'm going to go into a lot of detail that will help you. But I do keep this whole list because if fair housing calls and they have testers that call and they want to make sure I'm not discriminating, and what I do is I fill this out, and if they call me back later and say, hey, you know, you had this person that had these things and this person that had these things, but you accepted this one and not this one, I can get these notes and I can tell you why I accepted which one and I didn't accept the other one. So first of all, obviously at the top you want to write down the house, and then you do the date of the phone call. I get the tenant's name and I get the first and last name. As I'm writing down their name, I am quickly going into my computer. If I happen to get this call in front of my computer, it's ideal, but I will go into my computer, and in Detroit, we have a case lookup for 36th District Court. Check your city, wherever you live. See if your court where the evictions go through, if they have it all online. It's wonderful because I can tell their traffic violations, any garnishments they've ever had, anytime landlord has taken them to court for non-payment of rent, not just an eviction, but I don't want to deal with somebody who keeps going to court over and over because they're slow at paying for whatever reason. I want to look at that. I want to look to see if the case was dismissed. And as I'm pulling this up, I'm discussing these things with the tenant too. As I'm going through this, I kind of weave all this stuff in. I'm not like, I don't think I've ever done this list in this order because I just know the whole list. I've done it so many times, but it's a great guidance, and I refer to my list to make sure I didn't leave anything out once I get caught on a subject with them about something else. I do get their phone number. I ask them if this is a cell phone, can I text them on that number? Because I will text them before showing them a house just to confirm that they're actually still planning on coming to the house. I go into and I say, hey, do you have a few minutes? I've got some pre-screening questions. I just want to make sure this is a good use of your time and mine. I'd hate for you to go all the way to the house and find out that it wouldn't have worked out for you, or I'm sure, and then the same thing with me. I ask them who all will be living with you, and I word it like that. It's natural for me to word it that way. There's probably better wording out there, but when I have it kind of broad like that, it helps me to get a better feel. Is it like a mom and a bunch of kids? Is it a roommate situation? Is it a couple of adults, aunts and uncles living together? I just want to get a feel of who it is because it'll give me an idea of a lot of different things. I'll go through that as we go, but I try not to ever say, do you have kids? How many kids do you have? Because of fair housing rules, and I don't want to be considered discriminating against a familial status, but I want to get a picture of how many people will live there because it affects my investment. I ask them where are they living now. It's helpful when I'm doing the background check or as I'm sitting there looking at 36th District Court and I look at the evictions and things, I can see those addresses. Another reason is they will tell me if they're living with someone that's not actually their house, they're just staying with someone. That's a big negative to me because I prefer to do a home visit. I want to see where they're living now. How are they treating the house they're in now? I made a whole video about that. That was the last video I just made. It's about how I do a home visit and the different kinds of things that I'm looking for and how I let them know that I'm doing a home visit. And I do say that at some point in this when they're asking for qualifications. Sometimes I'll say, I do make a home visit. And while I'm talking about qualifications, sometimes they just launch right into it. Hey, what are your qualifications? I used to go into this whole list of I'll accept this, but not this, and this, but not this. I don't think that's a good idea anymore. I just go right to the heart of the matter and I say, oh, why are you asking? Is there something that maybe concerns you? No. Or they'll launch into it and they'll tell me the thing that concerns them. I think if they're asking that, it's because they do have a concern. There is something dicey on their credit. And I've told people before, I'm just asking because usually when people ask that, they know of something that denied them somewhere else. So let's just figure it out and I'll let you know right now. I asked them this one, which is one of my favorite questions because it reveals so much. Why are you moving? And I'll find out if they're living at home, and that's one of those things that comes up with where are you living now? If they live at home, why are you moving? Well, I want to move out from my parents. I require that people are experienced at being a tenant. This eliminates a lot of problems. When you get people that it's their first time renting, they don't understand, they think everyone's out to get them. I don't want to deal with that. Let some other landlord take that on. And then when I say, why are you moving? And if they say that their lease is up, I want to know, why aren't they staying then? Because that's not a valid answer to me. Just your lease is up. I mean, come on. I don't want somebody moving in that moves once a year. Oh, well, my lease was up. I just want somewhere else to go. Forget it. I want somebody that's going to stay in my property because that's a much better investment for me. And then oftentimes they go into that their landlord is a slumlord. Now I've heard lots of other landlords say, well, if they start talking about a slumlord, that's a really bad sign. Well, in Detroit, we are just filled with slumlords here. I don't know why. Maybe it's true everywhere, but from my experience here in Detroit, there are legit slumlords. So I do want to hear that story, and I follow it up with, okay, so when I do call your landlord for a reference, what do you think he's going to say? And that helps me to prepare myself for when I do make that call, when I am doing their background check. And I've got a whole list of things I go through with that, so be sure that you've gone to that link so that when I do have that prepared to share with everybody, that you're going to be one of the people that gets it. A big question, when are you able to move? It's so weird to me that people will be 2 months out in their house shopping. I'm like, well, did you think I was going to leave my perfectly ready house empty without a tenant? But I think when they think that they're used to apartments, I ask them too if they have given their notice to their current landlord. I don't want to have to wait for another 30 days. And I don't like to be the one to tell the landlord when I call for the reference that they're moving. And that happens all the time. I hate that. I hate to be the one telling the landlord. And of course, we have to get into their money. And this is how I ask them if they have Section 8. I say, and this works every time, I say, do you have a job? And they're like, well, yes. If they do have a job, like, why are you asking that? But if they have Section 8 and Section 8 is full pay, this is where they're like, well, no, but I have Section 8. But typically people, from my experience, have Section 8 and they work. So let's say it is somebody with Section 8 and they work. Well, I'm not so interested in how much they're bringing home a month for the same reasons I am for other people. So my next question is, well, how much do you bring home a month? So the non-Section 8 person, I want it to be 3 times the rental amount, or at least between half and 3 times, closer to 3 times if I can get that. And instead of me saying, well, I require 3 times the rental amount, then they say, oh yes, that's exactly what I make. And I let them know too at this point that I will be getting pay stubs from them. Will your pay stubs show that too? I mean, because I need that. I have to prove that it is 3 times the rental amount when I'm doing my paperwork. And if it's somebody with Section 8, I just want to know if they have a job. I really am not keen on renting to people that have Section 8 that do not have jobs, because they're not able to do their lawn and their snow and things like that. So I just prefer that they have a job, so that will eliminate that person on Section 8, unless there's a really good reason that they don't have a job, such as they have a disability and they get extra money from the disability. And at this time too, I will say, is there any other extra income that you get? Like maybe do you do hair? Do you do babysitting? Most of my people that call are females, so that's kind of where my questions are directed. Probably 98% of the people that call me are women. And I ask them to, do you have other people, other payers in your house? And I really prefer, in at least where I am in Detroit, I prefer that the person who called me is the one who makes 3 times the rental amount, or is the one that has the voucher. I want to know the one person that I'm dealing with. I really don't like to put the boyfriend on with the income, because it's a boyfriend, and I think, boyfriends, they can come and they can go. But it's helpful to know too if they do have extra support. A lot of my tenants have a mother that's living with them, and that's nice. Sometimes they feel like they have to hide it, like they don't want to put her on the lease for whatever reason. But if it's extra income, I tell them, well, I'm really just after the money, because I'm in business, and rent is about, this is a business. So I would like to know if there's another person that you plan on that is going to be helping you out financially. Now let's get into the Section 8 question. So let's say they said yes, they have Section 8. So I will ask them, oh, are you new to Section 8? Did you just get your voucher? Because there's a set of questions if they just got it, then there's my set of questions if they already have it. So if they're new to it, if they had it, or both of these, the newbies and the experienced ones, I say, which housing commission are you with? Now, I'm asking this because where I am in Detroit, I know which housing commission is slow. I know which one has the worst inspector, so I want to avoid that housing commission. I have said no to them before, but if the person seems extremely good, I would probably say yes. That is a house that's extremely easy to pass inspection, I might say yes. If they have children under the age of 6, which I try to find out in the questions without asking about kids, because you're not really supposed to ask about kids. But when I go through who all will be living there, I usually share the ages of my own kids, and then it'll come up more naturally instead of me sounding like I'm trying to discriminate against children. But if they do have children under 6, it's a much more stringent lead paint test inspection. And I want to make sure it's one of my more buttoned up houses, maybe an all brick one instead of one that might have paint outside, or one that has a garage that would need to be fully repainted or something. So for the people that are new to Section 8, I used to always say, oh my gosh, congratulations, that's just great. And they're like, oh, thank you. And a Section 8 director said to me, that's really not a very cool thing to say, because they got it because they needed it. So I try not to say that, but I do acknowledge that this could be life-changing, and what an opportunity. I just like to say that because I hope people see this as an opportunity. So when they're new to Section 8, it is very common, almost hands down every time common, that they don't understand the rental amount of the house they should apply for. They get this number from Section 8, and the number that they get typically applies to apartments. And in an apartment, they are expecting that the water, gas, and electric are all paid for. But when they're renting a house, landlords, I know I don't pay for water, gas, or electric. I have the tenants pay for those. So this number that they get from Section 8 is really big. So let's say they got the number $1,200. You have a $1,200 voucher. Well, they'll call me and I have an $800 a month house. Let's say that's my average in Detroit. I'll say, okay, so they're new to Section 8. How much is your voucher? Oh, it's this $1,200 voucher. So I could rent a house for $1,200 a month. And I say, well, hold on. Let's say she's got 6 kids, $1,200 would probably be the rent, not including anything to do with the utilities. But if she's only got like 2 or 3 kids, and she's got this $1,200 voucher. I'm like, no, really, that's the apartment number. I need the house number. And the way that I do it, and it's not scientific, but it's worked for me every time, is I will just minus off $200. If they say they have a $1,200 voucher and their family size is kind of average, I just knock off $200. I'm like, okay, so they could probably rent a house for around $1,000. So if I have a 900 house, a 950 house, I'm like, okay, that's good. They can afford this house. But if my house is right at 1,000 or it's at 1,100, I'm like, I doubt this is going to work. I don't want to go show the house and go through all the paperwork and then wait to hear back from Section 8 and my house is off the market and I'm losing money for somebody who we're not really sure. Now, you can always email the caseworker. I've done this. It's kind of hard. They're not that eager to help you when you're not actually a client yet, and you're not actually, you, the landlord, are not actually a client until you're in a HAP contract. So my $200 rule has worked for me. Now, let's say they have been on Section 8. So this is a little bit easier, okay? Remember, you start with which housing commission are you with? And then I ask them now, have you done your 30-day thing? And that means that they have to submit to their current landlord that they are moving out in 30 days. And then that landlord has to sign it and send it back to Section 8. And then quite often, these Section 8 offices will not start the 30 days until the 1st. So let's say on the 3rd, me as a landlord, I send this in saying, yes, I release this person. She paid everything, doesn't owe me anything. I don't know why they make us say that when they're still living in my house. They mean utilities, I guess, but I don't like it. I don't like filling those things out. I will admit I procrastinate filling those things out. So when a tenant says, oh yes, I sent it to my landlord, it should be any day now. Not necessarily, but I could send that and it could get to her office on the 3rd of the month. But then we have to wait until the 1st of the following month before she's actually allowed to leave. So it's something to be aware of. Have you done the 30-day thing yet? Because they'll argue and say, well, no, I did it. I'm going to have my move packet anytime now. What I want to know is, do you have your move packet? And the move packet is the documents you need. Now, this is with somebody new and experienced who's been on Section 8. You need them to have a move packet. That's the packet that they give to the landlord when they go to see the house. Oh, I love the house. Here, landlord, take this move packet. Go fill it out. Email it into my Section 8 office, and then they'll call you and tell you when the inspection is. Great. That means they are ready to move in. Do you have your move packet? Okay, yes, I have my move packet. Wonderful. Okay, let's talk about your rent where you are now, person who has Section 8, who's been on Section 8 before. How much is your rent right now where you're living? Okay, and then how much of that do you have to pay? Now, I want to know that because it tells me, I already kind of know from her job, if she works a ton of hours and is making close to 3 times the rental amount, she's probably about to lose her voucher because she makes too much money. But I want to know how much a month she has to pay, because maybe she hardly works, or maybe she just works a little bit. Maybe she has a disability and works, or maybe she is on a maternity leave, or maybe she gets child support or something. So I want to know how much she has to pay. That amount that she tells me she has to pay, that means that is 30% of her total income. And if you watch my video on how to get Section 8, which all landlords should see that, and actually there's even way better detail in my blog, you'll find out all the different things that they have to turn in to prove their income. So I don't spend a lot of time going, well, is your income this or is your income that? Just tell me how much you have to pay the landlord. And if it's a lot that they have to pay the landlord, it's one thing. If it's just a little bit, I'm like, yay. That's very little amount that I have to collect. So that would be when I'm giving a rating at the end of this of how much I want to rent to this person. If they're a good investment for my property, that would be a 5-star. If that person pays very little of the rent and Section 8 pays a lot of it, that's just a skate in the park, easy, wonderful tenant. I like that kind. It's important to ask the people that are already on Section 8 if there are any changes in their voucher. One thing in my What is Section 8 Really video, I go into porting. So different Section 8 offices, yes, HUD oversees Section 8, and then there's all these PHAs, public housing agencies, that hand out these vouchers. Well, I've had people come to me from Ohio, Detroit's really close to Ohio, and say, oh yeah, I want to rent your house. I'm like, okay, great. And I didn't know what porting was. It meant that they had to get their Ohio Section 8 office to work with the Detroit office to transfer their voucher over. This could be a 1 to 3 month process. Don't do it. I shouldn't say that because I feel badly for people that are trying to move. But you know, it's, if you have 1 to 3 months to have your house vacant, you might want to consider it. Or if the person is all that, you might want to consider it. And you want to ask them too if they have any changes that are coming to their voucher. They could possibly be on some kind of a probation. They could be in the process of appealing that they lost their Section 8 because they didn't turn in their paperwork. I'm making a video on how people lose their Section 8 too. Another pending change could be they're about to have a baby, so that means that they're not going to be working, and that means Section 8 is going to be paying more of their rent, or they're taking on more kids, so that means Section 8 will qualify for them for a higher rental amount. So I'm thinking in my head like, ooh, I could really raise the rent on that one. Or if one of their kids is like 18 now and they're going off in the military, let's say, and that came up in my conversation when I was talking about my kids and they were talking about their kids, I'll think about that and think, okay, that means her voucher amount isn't going to be as good, and she might, if that was her only last child, she might even lose her Section 8 voucher, or it's going to be significantly different. I had that happen before where one of my tenants had a 3-bedroom voucher. It went down to a 1-bedroom voucher. They were paying $800 a month and they went down to $600 a month. That was bad. That really stunk. But she was with me for 8 years, so it's not like I could say, oh, in 8 years are your kids all going to be grown? Yes, they were. And you want to tell them, please remember to bring your move packet when you come to see the house, because that way you can pick it up. Or you could use that as an opportunity to be more casual about doing the home visit. I made a video about that. You want to go to their house, see how they live. You could go and get their move packet at that time and make sure they signed all the parts of it. Check out my video too on all the Section 8 paperwork. That's part of the process, is filling out the move packet so you can know exactly what to expect with that. And then continuing on with how I do my phone screening, I don't say, do you have any pets? What I do say is, what pets do you have? And they always say, what? And I think they like don't understand me or something. I'm like, right, like, do you have a cat, or do you have a snake, or then I get kind of silly and try to make them laugh. Do you have like a tiger or something? And they're like, no, I just have a dog. And I'm like, oh, well, there's certain dogs I'll accept and certain dogs I won't accept. And I go strictly off the list of my insurance company. And insurance companies have what's called a vicious breed list. And there's a bunch of dogs there that they will not insure your house, even if it's something that doesn't have anything to do with a dog bite. They're not going to pay for any insurance claim if one of those dogs is in their house or in the house that they are insuring. So it's something you really have to be careful about. And I talk about how you can check out somebody's dog when you go do the home visit. You just pay a visit to the next door neighbor to ask them about the dog, see if you can get them to talk about the dog. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Think about your pet policy too while I'm at it. You might think it's just pretty innocuous if they only have a fish, but imagine a 100-gallon fish tank breaking and flooding right through your house. Go ahead and set the time. I have everybody meet at the same time, and it makes a little bit of excitement about it. And then if they have a story while you're doing this really thorough phone screening, which they typically do, you tell them just at the end when you're filling out the application, there's a section there for letter of explanation. Get a piece of paper out. If you want to handwrite it or whatever, take a picture, download it into the application, or scan it or type it or whatever. But write out your letter explaining, because I'm not going to remember everything I said to you, applicant, on the phone. So write out your story, and that way it'll help me remember when I'm doing your background check what your situation is. At the end, I referred to this earlier, my star system, kind of like Uber, where I give them a certain amount of stars for how much I like them as a tenant, and I make notes right then and there because I will not remember. I get so many calls because my houses are in such high demand because they're all newly renovated and they look really good, and there's a lot of slumlords in Detroit. So I make notes and I say why I like them, why I didn't like them, and I am very careful not to say anything that could be construed as a fair housing violation. Like, I would never write too many kids, because that's not really the issue. When I make my fair housing video, I'll tell you the breakdown of how many rooms. There's some kind of square footage thing that you can refer to. So it wouldn't be that. It would be size of the house for number of occupants. Let me just tell you quick. I'll just tell you about what is the fair housing law. It's Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968 prohibits discrimination based on race, color, national origin. Don't ask somebody on the phone with an accent, oh, what country are you from? You can't do that. Religion, sex, familial status, The sex one always worries me because it's mostly women that call me. I'm like, Fair Housing's going to call me someday and be like, why do you always say she? Because it's only women that call. Familial status, that's when I said, like, you don't want to write down this many kids or mention kids all the time or talk about, like, how many children do you have? You can have a conversation about children, but you don't do that specifically because it makes you look like you're discriminating. And under the children, it says including children under the age of 18, living with parents or legal custodians, pregnant women, and people securing custody of children under the age of 18, and handicap disability. You don't want to say to somebody, like when I'm going through this and they say about their extra income that they get a disability check, you can't say, oh, what's your disability? I would love to hear if you have other things that you do when you do your phone screening. I'm always up to learning new tricks. I appreciate you watching all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out my whole Section 8 Secrets of Section 8 Revealed playlist here. If you're interested in investing in Detroit, I've got a bunch of videos here about that. Subscribe here. Here is my latest upload. Thank you again so much for watching. Please leave a comment below. Thanks.